All right, we are back for another edition of the Astro Weather. It's me, Robert Phoenix, and we're going in with the um, not the USB mic, but just the regular audio in-pin mic today. So we have a bit of a issue with the sound. Don't blame it on me. What about the light? Look at it, enlightened. Look at this. Oh, it was for a brief moment, but it was glorious. Hello, everybody. Uh, Glad you're here. And it's another day in the neighborhood, in the cosmic neighborhood. And we are living in really remarkable, incredible, strange times. Really remarkable, incredible, strange times. And there's not a day that goes by where there isn't something controversial and divisive. We have a government shutdown now, right? I mean, that's as of midnight last night. We're now in a pissing match between the so-called left and the so-called right. But you know, how much of it is all orchestrated? They just work hand in glove. I mean, I think we can agree that for the most part there is a uniparty, and that every now and then a few will step out of the company line and give their perhaps prefabricated opinion to make sure that people have the illusion of choice. I mean, it's getting to this point where there's like AI, which is creating weird models of simulacra, right? Like something that is real but isn't real. And then now we're starting to see that. Well, it's always been there with the government, but we're starting to see this simulacrum of the government, and it's like it's just another version of some kind of AI creation, and maybe it's always been. Maybe it's always been. Joan was talking to me today before the show about how the sugar lobby and the sugar industry in the U.S. was in collusion with the aluminum industry and the dental industry for the case for fluoride, because sugar created cavities and they needed a universal agent, theoretically, to combat tooth decay. And of course, Edward Bernays was one of the people that helped fluoride get pushed across the finish line. It wasn't just Bernays, there were other people involved. In fact, I think there was somebody else that was carrying the ball for that. Bernays was sort of in the background. But it goes all the way back to that kind of pre-planning, you know, and we're talking what, like the 1950s, you know, military industrial complex, the birth of, that's really the birth of a nation, is like post World War II America. And it's sort of like this AI created reality where we're going to give you this simulation of, well, this thing is going to be good for you because we've helped create the conditions for that to be bad for you. It's the problem reaction solution world. And we're in deep problem reaction solution. Now, I am going to talk about this over on 15 Minutes of Flame. And it has to do with the fact that people are waking up. It starts with Israel, and I don't want to sound like a broken drum here, you know, a broken record or a drum that just keeps beating. But it starts with Israel, and because Israel is one of the places of global power. And you have Israel, you have it's Tel Aviv, but they're moving it to Jerusalem, obviously. But you have Tel Aviv, the city of London, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, city of London, city of Rome, and the District of Columbia. Those are your power centers right there. So we're starting to wake up to this. And over on 15, I've got, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. For those of you who will not be attending, let me show you the graphic. I'm very proud of the graphic. And I promise I'll do a little meet and greet. We'll get into another here. Very interesting star of the day today, by the way. If you bug out on the star of the day, I think you should stick around, because I learned a lot about the star of the day. And I knew a few things, but I didn't know the exact. Well, I didn't know a lot of the details around the star of the day. So just in case you're not going to make it to the 15 Minutes of Flame show over on Rumble, I'll burn my one. I'll burn my one screen share here, where I have to go back and redo it. So when I do the weather, it'll be snippety snap. Right? Snippety snap. Does that work? Snippety snap. So there you got the blank screen. So we stop screen, remove, burn that. The weird quirks of StreamYard. There you go. That's what you have to look forward to. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. That's happening at 9:10. Let's do the little shout out. Here we go. Who do we have? DJ MC, Healing Heart Rosie, California Contrarian, chiming in over on the show with Miguel Connor and Dr. Sherlyn Jones, a regular watcher of this program and an actual friend. So that was a good one. We got into David Bowie, and Miguel Connor has a book coming out on Bowie and his Gnostic roots and the traditions. We got the new next. So that's funny. Yeah, the thumbnail. Let's bring up the thumbnail today. I'm proud of this thumbnail. And it is astrological. So I am talking about the astrology of the thumbnail. I thought this really works. This really, really works. So when you look at this, clearly you have Gemini, but you also have Libra, right? And because you have Harry Mudd, who is in the center, played by the great Roger C. Carmel. And then you have the two Harry Mudd women who are actual twins. However, they are aligned as the scales, and each one of them has something different. She's got the love juice, and she's got the chalice. Right? But it's just like Libra. I love the purple. I love the purple lighting in the background. Passion, exotica. It's all very Martin Denny, isn't it? In a lot of ways. It's like space tiki culture. Now there's a genre, space tiki. Anyway, when I saw that, I'm like, that's perfect for the first day of October. Really, really celebrating the sign of Libra and Venus. All right, who else we have? That's very funny. I got to put that up on a mustache, right? Yes, it's good. Jackie Delarius. Hi, Jackie. Roger C. Carmel died at a young age. Died at 54 or something. Kelly B. There you are. How's it going, Kelly B? Mazamine, misbehaving too. Tom Jordan. What's up, Tom? Good to see you. Liddy Lou. In the house. What's going on, Liddy Lou? It is a beautiful Peachy was out of her mind today. After the food and the poop, man, she's turned loose. Turned loose. Lord, turn loose that woman. Remember that? TJ Jakes? TD Jakes? TD Jakes. Woman, let Jesus turn you loose. Turn him loose, Lord. I swear to God, that was his sermon. It's not surprising that Mr. Jakes got in trouble with crossing those ecumenical lines. Soul Traveler Janine, that's a blast from the past. We are celebrating, as far as we can, the Babes of Star Trek as the thumbnail series. I've been getting into like changing it up and doing different themes for different signs. We went through the crab. Man, we crabbed out, didn't we, during Cancer? And all those beautiful, gorgeous lions. And Virgo with images of fall and purity and diligence. And all those beautiful Virgo virtues. Now here we are in beauty. Soul Traveler, Diane Evans. I've been awake all night. I'm sorry, Diane. I know those nights. They're not fun. There he is, Mr. Smith, the big cheese. What's going on, Neil? PB, fourth the door, my man Steve. Mark S. in the house. Janice Phillips. Let's see who else. There she is, a lovely and talented one, driving and listening. Privacy Anti-Scum. Kabuki Theater. Hey, Bo, what's going on? Green Ag Crow. Hello from Utah. Utah. Ooh, very popular state these days for all the wrong reasons. Debisu checking in with us from Europe. Desley Logan from Down Under. Hi, Desley. Devin Dewar, Double D, checking in from Down Under San Antonio. That is technically Down Under, but I don't need a visa to go there. Who knows? Maybe one of these days I will. Yes, it is very strange out there. People are at each other's throats, man. It's hard to not be sucked in. I find myself getting sucked into the vortex. We do what we have to do. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Amy Gill. Hi, Amy. Indiana. Sonrisa Chica. Greetings. Let's see. Lecture today with David. Feel better, but oh my gosh, it is all weird. Let's stay close in this journey. Oh, Lynn's got a visitor. Well, Lynn, I hope you have a nice visit. Vienna, sadly, he sounds like a broken record. Oh, I know. I know. It is what it is. But you could always change the channel or change the record. That's the beautiful thing about the internet. Right? It's a beautiful thing about the internet. City of London is Israel. City of London is the brains of the outfit. I have no, I will put that up there. See, I may be a broken record, but sometimes a broken record skips over the right groove. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Wit. The new financial center is Florida, West. Hey, that is true. That is true. The money's been moving out of New York. Florida might become the next Tel Aviv. Let's see what happens by 2028. Let's see. Dead Wolf Resistance got to go trucking. There to see Dead Wolf. Have a good trucking day. Who else do we have here? Josie Jazzy John. Robert's brain working overtime. Sometimes it does. Lynn Stoltz. Hi, Lynn. Good to see you. Love for Gaia from Montana. Hey, Love for Gaia. Sojourn 137. Woman, thou art loosed. That's it. Thank you. I forgot the thou. The thou art loosed. Oh, he must have been very enthralling that day. What a TV jokes. The jokes write themselves. Thank you, Kelly B. The jokes write themselves. Animals are more fun. Animals are worth the bang for their buck. Let me tell you. Animals are worth the bang for a buck. They really are. Yes, hit that like and subscribe. And guess what? I actually have a QR code for those of you who do not find it aberrant, abhorrent, and you want to buy yours truly a cup of coffee, since I cannot be monetized on this platform. It is one way for you to support this show, and liking and subscribing helps, but YouTube doesn't pay me, and they unsubscribe people all the time. So if you really want to support the show and the work, which I do freely, I do very little behind the paywall. Maybe I should rethink that, but here it is. It goes back to when I was a tarot reader, and I would do tarot readings for people all across the country. I didn't have a credit card processor. They would just send me checks. And it was great. Only one person never sent me a check. Just one. I've always wanted to go to Australia too. Put that up there. All right, let's do a little Barbara Boots. And let's see. Anybody else? Frank Heineke, Central Texas. What's going on, Frank Heineke? Frank, I hope I got your name correct. If not, I apologize. Frank Heineke. Not, feel free to correct me. You, Robert, I don't miss a show, but tired of Israel. Oh, yeah, I know. Sorry. Yeah, I get it. Thank you for clarification. Let's get into the weather. Let's. If I haven't mentioned you, welcome to the show. Glad you're here as always. All right. So let's check it out. Right there. Okay. Let me do the slight adjustment here. Can you guys see it? You can see it, right? Yeah. Okay. No, we don't want to add item. Get out, add item. Get out, add item. Get out, add item. Let's see what this looks like. Okay. All right. I will zoom in. StreamYard is getting really, really wonky. They're bringing out all these new features, but anytime you build on top of certain things, other things can be compromised. I think it's kind of a law of creation in some ways. It's like introducing a new species to an environment where it becomes invasive. It's like maybe you should have argued that a little bit more before you decided to drop in the cane toad to Australia. Speaking of Australia. All right, we're still in this moment here. Sun, Uranus, Pluto, pivot, pivot, pivot. Pivot, pivot, pivot. I've had to do a huge pivot. You know, looking back where I was about 6 weeks ago, I mean, I was on death's door. Good, dear friend who does physical body work, decided she was going to try to help me out, and I just had I had this epiphany yesterday too. I'm not going to share it. I was in such bad shape that she asked me if I was okay with dying. That's how bad. I don't mean to be dramatic, but I was a couple skipped beats away from being admitted to the hospital because I was experiencing heart failure. And that was huge, huge. So when you have a moment like that in your life, what do you do with it, right? Especially when you get some distance from it. It's like, look at what's working, what's not working, and start to make pivots. So that's what I'm working on. The energy is here. Right? Sun Pluto trines are tremendous. And especially in Libra, because if areas of your life have been out of balance, you can bring that into serviceable action in your life. What is imbalanced in my life? What is it that I'm not attending to? What is it needs more attention? And with Uranus, it can be just a thunderbolt, right? And you get it. It's like, this is what I've got to do. And sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it's, things are foisted upon you very quickly. But if you make, I'll be Patrick Bet David. I wonder if I can do a Pat Bet David voice. I have to work on it. Nick, when I was in the Middle East, no, I'll have to do Pat Bet David. Your next move. He's a big your next move guy. And Pat Bet David listen, man, I always feel like I need to take a shower after I watch him. But the guy has built a fucking empire. Now, I don't know who's behind him, but he's built an empire. And his whole PBD thing down in Florida is massive. They've got an indoor basketball court. They've got a gym. They've got lockers. They've got a big studio. I mean, the guy is dominating the space. And I think he's really, how he made his money, I don't know. I think he was like an insurance guy, Ponzi scheme. But he initially got famous because he could pay his guests. And he got big name guests. It's smart. It's really smart. If you have the money to pay guests, they will come on your show. And that way you ensure views. It's not a bad idea. So I tip my cap for him to building it. Anyway, so this is your next move. This is we're gonna coin this the Pat Bet David Grand Shrine right here. What is your next move? What are you going to do to restore some balance to your life? Right. It took me to get to death's door during that eclipse season and that freaking, normally Mars and Virgo, man, I am fucking productive. It's in my sign. It's up in my 10th house, but then I have the South Node. And it's crossing the South Node. And so I'm at my least vital. And this is how astrology works. You pay attention. You pay attention to the transits that are going on in your life. I've got some other real humdingers right now. And you make notes. Yeah. Stuff really does kind of work, doesn't it? We had, speaking of Libra, I had a great moment on the show yesterday with Miguel and Sherlyn, and we were talking about John Lennon and David Bowie and how Bowie really leaned into, and Miguel told me something I didn't know, that there was a list of other people that Mark David Chapman was going to kill had he gotten past John Lennon. And one of the people on that list was David Bowie. So Bowie and Lennon were friends. They got to know each other in New York, where they both had decided they'd had enough of England. So they had a lot of expat sort of commiseration involved in their lives. And Lennon really helped them out with a lot of the turmoil around Bowie's management. And Lennon is a Libra. And he's playing that role, right? He's playing that role to kind of balance out David's madness, even though Lennon had his own madness. But by that time, I'm trying to figure out where Lennon was. It's funny that both Lennon and Bowie go to Los Angeles to lose their minds. They go to LA and Lennon's living there and he's hanging out with Harry Nilsson and Mickey Dolenz, and they are just raging on the strip every night. And Lennon's involved with this other Asian woman. He's in this love triangle, right? So they both lose their minds in LA. They both wind up coming back to New York. And he might have, Lennon might have been in New York prior to going to LA as well. But that's where they met, was New York. And he helps him out with a lot of like business stuff, life stuff. And Lennon's a Libra, and he provides that balance, right? And then when you look at Saturn, what is the sign that Saturn is exalted in? It's in Libra. So there's this interesting relationship between Saturn and Venus and Capricorn and Libra. And then I realized there were 3 people on the show yesterday, and Sherlyn happens to be a Libra, right? And so she's there playing the balancing role between me and the host, Miguel, who happens to be a Taurus. So we had both expressions of Venus yesterday. It was really cool. And Miguel, who is new to astrology, his head was kind of swimming. He's like, what is this guy talking about? You know, he comes out of that sort of Gnostic astro-theological world of Chris Knowles, where they're very into the stars, fixed stars, placement of the stars, written in the stars, right? The stars are the myths and the maps of the mind. So, sky of mind. That was a phrase I was trying to come up with last week when I was talking to Mark. It comes out of the Doc Rejon, sky of mind. Anyway, that's the role that Libra plays. It's the cantilever. It's the balance. So with this grand trine, balance is restoring balance can happen very quickly if you have some focus and some fortitude, and can make a pivot. Okay, and the energies now are crazy insane, because on the other side we have, we've been going through this Neptune opposition with the sun, and it's dissipated. Now this is where you have to use some clarity, right? Because sometimes the things that we believe will bring balance into our lives may just be a pipe dream. And Saturn is right there underneath it, kind of doing the reality check. Now, remember, Saturn is exalted in Libra, but here it's in kind of this wide opposition. It's almost out of opposition. Like today's one of the last days of it. In fact, it's technically out. But that's what it's been doing, okay? It's the thing that you want to do in your life going to work. And usually with the retrograde, the lessons are in the past. They're in the past. And you can look back and say, well, I was here before. It's not the same, not completely the same, but I was here before. What happened? Did it work this way that time? Maybe I need to try differently. And at the end of the day, Neptune is the Godhead. So perhaps you need an infusion of divine guidance, and the signs are everywhere if you're looking for them. So we have Mercury, also part of the mix, but a very different part of the mix, triggering this Grand Cross. And the squares coming in. Today we have it seems like the moon has been in Capricorn for the last week, doesn't it? Every day, there's that moon in Capricorn. But by this time, it should be close to being dissipated. But by degree, it's still in square with Mercury. So trying to balance out the how would I say this? The authoritarian view of how you distribute your emotions. That sounds about right for me. The authoritarian view about how you distribute your emotions. And Mercury and Libra can sometimes want to placate and not mess with the existing order. And not always to its best effect. So it's being challenged here. Like, are you being sentimental? Are you being too kind to some people that really don't really deserve it? Or are you not having better boundaries? Because that moon square with Mercury will bring up those boundaries. It's like enough. As parents, how many times have we bailed our youngins, as Janice would say, out of money, out of the money situation? Today's one of the, I've been noticing, like, where's my money going? Where's my money And I'm becoming more conscious and aware of, like, I don't want to be cheap, but because cheap is the thing that bothers me. Cheap people kind of bug me, I have to say. It's like they want everything, but they want other people to foot the bill for it. And that's how people get rich, by the way. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy. There's this story about J.P. Morgan. If J.P. Morgan was out at a dinner, I remember this is one of the richest motherfuckers in the world. And he was out to dinner, and the bill would come. He would never pick it up. They would sit there at the table at a dinner for at least an hour until somebody said, "Screw it, old man Morgan's not going to get it." I guess, and he would just outlast him. And that's how a lot of those guys became rich, because somebody else was footing the bill. Mars and Scorpio, for all you Mars and Scorpio people out there, it's your Mars return. What you going to do with it? What are you going to use it to create with? Liddy Lou's got Mars and Scorpio. There's a deeply generative effect of Mars and Scorpio. I'm jealous. My father had Mars and Scorpio. And he was catnip to the women. He's a good looking guy too. But there's that Mars and Scorpio. I've seen people, I've said this before, I've seen people who are very average looking people, but if they have Mars and Scorpio, it is the sexual fucking radar of the zodiac that people pick up on. Oh. It's like pheromone, right? So that's another thing that's happening right now is this Mars-Pluto square. Where's the boundaries? And it's fixed, setting up hard boundaries. But the world is bad. The world is insane. I mean, I was over on Twitter yesterday, and I'm a football fan. I like the 49ers. And I was there during the glory years of Bill Walsh. It was glorious. Love Bill Walsh. Sagittarius, embodiment of the Sagittarian, right? Created the system, the West Coast offense, and Bill was a mastermind. Absolute mastermind. But he's a fire sign, and he burned out. Eddie DiBartolo, the Scorpio owner of the 49ers, burned him out. So Bill's time with the 49ers was actually relatively short. He looks back on it, and after he won his third Super Bowl with the 49ers, he gave it up. And he looked back in that time and he said, I shouldn't have quit so early. He's right, he shouldn't have. But Sagittarius is a mutable sign. And I think Walsh's post-49er career, while it's not terrible, it doesn't reach the same heights. Anyway, Niner, and it just brings us back to astrology. He had this really intense love-hate relationship with Joe Montana, who's a Gemini, opposite sign. And who comes into the mix? Steve Young. And what is Steve Young? He's a Libra. And he's that counter lever, right? He's the counter lever between Walsh and Montana. And Walsh was using Steve Young as leverage for Joe. There's a side of Joe that people don't know about. Joe was wild. He never got caught. But let's just say there was a lot of off-season skiing in the Bay Area. It was the 80s. And Bill knew about all this stuff. So Bill's not only managing the fact that, Joe's got some injuries, but he's got some extracurricular activity that could potentially damage the team. So there's Steve Young, Mr. Libra, right in the center. Well, literally at the midpoint. Sag, Gemini, Libra, right in the midpoint. And Steve Young eventually takes over. And one of the reasons why Steve Young was so successful was Jerry Rice. And they're born one day apart. So they have the Sun-Sun conjunction, and Jerry Rice didn't miss a beat when Joe left. So this is all Libra, right? We're talking about Libra, how Libra works as this scale and balance. And right now, people are working overtime to stay in balance. And it's kind of a test, right? This is the inner sky. How do you work with these energies, right? Now Mercury's going to come up and it's going to square Pluto. It's going to get even more intense. And you're going to see people break down and lose their shit. We're already watching it. I saw the Big Cheese sent me this video of this father whose daughter was murdered in South Carolina. And Irina from North Carolina, interesting, right? Trying to balance the scales out. South Carolina, North Carolina. Irina, the Ukrainian, got all the headlines. Meanwhile, his daughter was pulled out of her room with her housemates while she's in bed asleep at night and was basically executed by somebody who should have been in jail, been arrested 36 times. And this guy was in front of some kind of a panel or some kind of inquiry in the state of South Carolina. This father, talk about unloosed. He was clear. He was enraged. He was furious that this guy was on the streets and his daughter was executed by him, basically, for her debit card. And that room was absolutely, utterly silent. Silent. And this guy was at about as loud a volume for outrage as you can get, and still keep it just below the decibel threshold where he's not standing up, jumping across his table and going to strangle some stupid ass politician who thought it would be really great to make sure that people were able to escape their sentences. And he's symbolic of where we are right now, because there's a lot of rage. We're entering this rage phase. And as many of you know, the underlying emotion beneath rage is grief. And if we get to the point of grief, we may have a chance. Right? Because the one thing that the left and the right have in common is that they both feel like they've been fucked over. And if we can just align with that, right? Because why do the left do what they do? They do it because they feel fucked over, that society is unfair, that people are born with an advantage in their lives, and they use that advantage unfairly, often to the detriment of the environment and other people that are less fortunate than they are, etc. Right? Do they have a bone to pick? I think they do. I think they do. Now the right is becoming unglued, not the rich right, not the Reagan Bush rich right, not the corporate Republican right, but the MAGA right. That Donald Trump started all this. They're indignant, they're angry, they're enraged. And now they're pointing their fingers at the left, that the left is the problem. Well, they're part of the problem, but they theoretically should share the burden of grief. They should share the burden of rage. This is a very Libra thing. And this is what they don't want to happen. This is why, and I'm going to talk about it over on 15, this is why the Israeli lobby now is investing anywhere between $7,000 to $15,000 to get young people, Gen Z, to carry water for Israel. And all that is out in the open. TikTok now is, I had a great conversation with Emily. We got to get her back to the show. And Emily pointed out to me that for all intents and purposes, TikTok is owned by Larry Ellison of Oracle now. He's running the show. And Nino Rodriguez got banned from TikTok again. And they have eliminated the juice box emoji. Why? Because juice sounds like juice. I mean, people, it's all coming out. The toothpaste is coming out of the tube. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but somebody's got to do it. And trust me, coming from me, I'll give it to you with a little bit of sugar. Other people, you'll get the turpentine without the cube of sugar. But deep beneath all this rage is grief, and it's the grief that this world that we live in has been hijacked for a long time. A long time. And when we get to this point, we are in reset territory. It happens all the time. The natives are getting restless. Let's have a flood. Let's have a plague. Let's have a pandemic. Let's have a war. I know. Let's turn this group against this group. But it's no longer working. You know, it's sort of like when you take a drug, whatever the drug is, at some point you're going to need more of it to get the same effect. And it's just going to pile on. Wait till Mercury moves into Scorpio and starts to square Pluto. This thing is just starting to roll downhill fast without any brakes. Now we've got a government shutdown. And there's Venus hanging out there once again, singleton off, right? And we got to deal with public services now. You know, they're going to cut people at national parks. I think this is all planned to privatize the government. This is what this shutdown is going to be about. And I don't have a problem with some of this. Somebody said, well, they should privatize TSA. Why don't you just get fucking rid of TSA? If you privatize it, then you put limits and strictures on it, right? That's where the shutdown is headed. But they have plenty of IRS agents still available. All right, let's get into our story today. Stay balanced out there. Do your best. Stay balanced. And make those pivots. This is big life stuff. You're in a big life stuff transit right now. And some of it has to do with what David would call the collective. And some of it is just your own personal stuff. All right. Let's talk about our True Hemp Science star of the day. And before I do, let me just do a little pitch here for True Hemp Science. I had a moonlight gummy last night. This is Starlight. You don't want to take this for good or bad. But this is one of the things you'll get in the goodie bag, along with a couple of vials and tinctures. The more you do business with our friend Chris, the goodie bags get a little bigger. I'm just saying. He recognizes your name on the order. Sometimes people call him in, just like an old school pharmacy. And if you're a good customer, returning customer, you'll get rewarded. Spend $100 more, type of 1,5-MINS, get some of the best CBD on the internet. In the physical world, I'll go that far. And you'll get the goodie bag. $150 will get you free shipping. There's always a 30-day money-back guarantee, and it is an American Main Street business. You're supporting an entrepreneur, and you're supporting the show. All right, let's talk about our star of the day. That's TrueHempScience.com. Annie Besant. Some of you more esoteric and occult-minded people may know Annie as a member of both the Golden Dawn and the Theosophical Society. She was the mother, basically, of Krishna. I believe his brother's name was Jita Krishnamurti. So it is her and Bishop Ledbetter who go to India and find these two boys because they believe that Krishnamurti, remember I was talking about Maitreya on Friday? They believed he was the real Maitreya, that he was going to be the world savior, that they were going to have a world religion, and that the World War I, was going to be the opportunity to introduce this new religion and this world teacher. And you can see where she's got this Moon Jupiter conjunction. Well, Jupiter's the ruler of the ninth house. It's Sagittarius. So she goes to India and she basically adopts these two boys, takes them to England, eventually goes to Ojai, California, where Krishnamurti and his brother grow up. And then his brother dies of tuberculosis. He already had tuberculosis. And they thought by moving to Ojai that the climate, which wasn't so damp and wet as England was, would be beneficial to Krishnamurti's younger brother. However, the younger brother dies. And that sets Krishnamurti apart, ultimately, from the Theosophists. He has an awakening moment. He begins to realize that he's a bit of a pawn in their game. But you can see the maternal effect here in Besant's chart. Now, you go over here, and she has these very strong partnerships that she has. I mentioned Bishop Ledbetter. She studied at the feet of Madame Blavatsky. She did not start off as a theosophist. Annie Besant was a feminist, right? And she's like loaded with all these Libra planets. And she was very into a woman's right to choose. Annie Besant is the poster child. Oh, thank you, Steve. There she is right there. Thank you. There's Annie Besant right there. And these are the aspects that I'm referring to. Right? She is the poster child for the modern woman. She's an occultist. Some might say she's a witch. She's clearly involved in abortion. So she has a whole legacy outside of esoterica. And I didn't know about this until I needed to, do a little more deep diving on Annie Besant. She's got a whole history as a feminist. And she was set up she came from a royal peerage, but they were not very rich, but rich enough for her to get 110 pounds per year. Now, back in the day, 110 pounds a year was good. But because she was this activist, and you see this with Libra. Libra is active, right? Like even a guy like Sting, who's a Libra, what does he do? He takes up a cause. He goes to the Amazon rainforest, throws down $1 million and says, I'm buying this land. Stop cutting the trees down. Libras will do this, right? They feel the need to restore balance. Why do you think Bruce Springsteen, who we talked about earlier, does what he does? He believes the world is imbalanced. And so based on his prism, he wants to restore some kind of balance. The little guy, the working man. Well, the working man, he can't relate to the working man at all. His working man roots shriveled up and died years ago. If he was that concerned about being a working man, he charged $10 a ticket for the shows. But he doesn't. Just saying. So Besant loses her 110 pounds per year. They take it away from her, right? But does that stop her? No. Why? Because she's an Aries rising. That's why. She deals with conflict, obstruction, and she's got Uranus, Pluto in her first house. She's fixed and radical. And unabashedly so to the end of her life. And she has Mars in Taurus. She's stubborn. Very, very stubborn. But her life is marked by these partnerships. Whether it's Krishnamurti and sort of the itinerant mother, right? The adoptive mother, Krishnamurti. And that's a partnership. And Ledbetter and Blavatsky and some of the other like feminist models that she was working with prior to, you know, the dawn of a new day. And she never, you can tell she never really felt part of this world with Saturn in Pisces in her 12th house intercepted. And everything is below the horizon with the exception of that smattering of Libra planets and whatever. The 12th house is interesting. It's above the horizon, but we may as well consider it below the horizon because it's all hidden. It's occluded. Very interesting. And I know she knew her chart because they were into astrology. And she was tabbed as being a, you know, a pretty woman. And she is, you know, she's attractive, right? But she's attractive in that way that she never let her hair grow really long. And unfortunately, she dies of dementia. Well, she doesn't die of dementia. She has dementia. She's young, older. And she's, you know, kind of like most of us, a shell of her more vital, formal self. But she's an important person because we don't have the new age or new thought. There is no Krishnamurti, whose teachings, apart from the Theosophists, are kind of brilliant. The Krishnamurti is a Taurus, by the way, right? So she would have this connection with male Tauruses, right there. So she's a very seminal figure, and whether you agree with her or not, or believe in her work, whether it's on the feminist side or whether it's on the occult esoteric side, she's an important figure. She is a modern woman living in the Victorian era with Uranus in her first house, right? In Aries. She's going to be a rule breaker. For better or worse. And there's almost too much emotion in some areas of the chart, like overwhelming. And we're seeing that today with the Mercury-Jupiter square, which I was going to point out, but neglected to do so since I felt like we spent enough time on the weather. But everything that people are talking about is amplified through that Jupiter square in Cancer. And Jupiter in Cancer is very provincial. You know, it is very folky. It is, you know, people that are trying to get back in touch with more traditional values, which is what Cancer does. So now you've got people that are really raging, you know, at the world because they realize that our world has been replaced by synthetic values. And with AI looming and sucking up everybody's household energy now, that's going to be a big deal. When people find out that their energy bills are going to be directly connected to all these AI centers, I'm just wondering how long people are going to stand for it. Maybe they'll come up with a new catastrophe, which we know that's not out of the question. Yeah. So Annie Besant, here's your True Hemp Science star of the day. You know, important figure in two worlds. I mean, she could be in some ways the poster woman for our time, for better or worse, probably for worse, the way this whole thing has de-evolved. It's interesting. They start off in this kind of platonic world of the ideal, right? This golden age where we're in communication with ascended masters and they help us through the drought of the world. That's where it all started. Where it ends, Trump, RX. All right. That's it for today's show. If you enjoyed it, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Oh, I got to do this. I have to do this. You got to do this right here. Boom. Like and subscribe. There you go. Boom. That's it. Boom. Boom. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Don't forget my little QR code if you're so inclined. If not, there is a link inside the show notes if you'd like to support the show and my over the paywall work. Have yourselves a tremendous day. Use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart is to open what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Take care. God bless. Love you all.